Welcome to this video about the unseen extract task for political and social protest writing with AQA. This is for the A level. Paper 2 section A. This is actually part of a series of 4 videos that I'm doing, all about using smaller extracts in order to practice the ethos of this task. As you may know, if you've been practicing this task, the extract tends to be two sides, whether it's prose, poetry, or drama. And I decided to do something differently, particularly if you are practicing this task, which is actually you don't always have to use long text like that to practice this. You can equally practice this and revise this task from using shorter texts. So what I did is I went away and I wrote 4 very small extracts, which is why I've created 4 videos, in order to practice this task. What the examiner wants you to do with this task is to connect the elements of political and social protest writing to a piece of literature that you've not seen before, as a way of demonstrating that you understand the genre. So the elements of political and social protest writing is what is significant in this response. So this is a series of 4 videos in which I look at a very small extract in each one, and I know that you would not have seen these anywhere else because I wrote them a few days ago. So this is brand new and is nowhere else out there. And of course there is a limited number of unseen extracts out there because there's only been so many exams, etc. So this really is to help you practice connecting the genre with the text, but we don't necessarily have to look at long text to do that. So just a heads up really in terms of what is happening in this video, what to expect in this video. I'm going to be showing you a short prose extract, and what we will do is we'll read through it, then I'll give you some time to highlight or write down what you regard to be significant, then I'll annotate it with you, and then I'll finish the video by going through an overview. And the overview is really the first paragraph of your essay, a bit like an introduction, in which you explain to the examiner what's going on and what stands out to you as significant in the extract, with the intention of kind of talking more about it perhaps in the main body of the essay. So this is what to expect in this video. So this is the extract. I've named this extract the jury room, which might already start to have connotations of the module, particularly if you think of To Kill a Mockingbird or other texts which are set, in part at least, in some kind of courtroom or legal setting. In the jury room, 12 people were deliberating the case they had heard. Now they had a decision to make. Was Bradley Schofield guilty of murder? Just as the clouds were congregating in the gloomy January sky outside of the courthouse, the jury returned to the courtroom. As they stood to watch the judge enter and sit grandly on the bench for the last time, none of their eyes met Schofield's. This is what happens when a jury unanimously convicts a man of murder. And so it was. Bradley fell to his knees without saying a word, tears streaming down his cheeks, for he knew he had not committed the crime for which he had been convicted. Mandy Simpson knew he was innocent too. In the jury room, she had tried to stand her ground. I know he is innocent. There has not been a scrap of evidence to make me change my mind. Madam, replied Leon Smith, foreman of the jury, you don't need anyone to present any evidence to you. You can see with your own eyes he is guilty. The colour of his skin suggests he is a savage, capable of this kind of butchery of a young white woman. He continued, if you continue to disrupt our deliberation process, you will be expelled from the jury. With this, Mandy's face grew hot and tight. So that is something that I wrote a few days ago for the purposes of looking at smaller texts in order to practice this task. So what I would suggest you do is you pause the video now and you write down the quotes that you regard to be significant in this extract. If this was the extract or part of the extract you got in the exam, what to you stands out as being significant in terms of political and social protest writing? Then what I'll do in a second is I will then give you some annotations. So pause the video now, have a think, and then we'll continue with the video. So first of all, I have colour-coded or highlighted the bits of this extract that might stand out to you. It certainly stood out to me as I was looking at my own writing, which was interesting. So all of these quotes here, all of these things that I have highlighted, there is something you could say about them in terms of the module of political and social protest writing. There's something that you could say and expand on in relation to the task. So again, you can pause the video again now and think about what these annotations could be, and then I will give you the actual analysis that came to my mind as I was looking at this. So here we go. So first thing to look out for, not just in this text, but in any text, is the use of pathetic fallacy or use of the outside weather conditions, because they can often be used as a metaphor to reinforce a changing mood. And clearly here, the writer, i.e. me, has decided to make the weather outside particularly gloomy and almost dystopian to represent the fact that we're coming up to the verdict of Schofield. So I wanted to represent that metaphorically, so that's an authorial method there. If you think of a courtroom is synonymous with hierarchies and those with power. The judge, for example, sits grandly and sits higher than anybody else in the courtroom, reinforcing the judge's status in those proceedings. And of course, a jury trial, any kind of court trial, has a procedure to it. And of course, a democratic right is a fair trial. So again, that's clearly not the case here, because Schofield has not had a fair trial, because the jury has instead convicted him based on their own prejudice and racism, rather than actually listening to the facts of the case, which is the whole point of a jury trial. That's why you have them. So you listen objectively to the facts of the case as the prosecution and defence bring them out of the witnesses and all the testimony that gets heard. In the blue there's a degree of voicelessness, which is another element of this genre. The fact that Bradley Schofield fell to his knees without saying a word. So there's a degree of voicelessness here. There's nothing he can do to avoid this wrong verdict. And the piece in pink there, it just reminds us that he is innocent. So there has been a gross unfairness and a gross kind of sense of injustice here coming through. So again, not good at all, which is ironic considering that courtrooms, of course, are all supposed to be about justice. So here there has been, a wrong verdict entered. In the jury room, one of the jurors is Mandy Simpson, and she is responsible for deliberating and thinking on whether or not this man is guilty or not. And it says that she tried to stand her ground, meaning she was courageous, and she also rebelled against the prejudice of the other jury members. She basically said, nothing's going to change my mind, I know he's innocent. So she's not wanting to see herself as like the other people in the jury who might be basing their verdict on racism or prejudice. So she's quite courageous to say that. However, she is threatened by Leon Smith as kind of the head of the jury with being expelled. So that's undemocratic because it means that she's not being listened to. She doesn't really have freedom of speech. And it also undermines the whole purpose of a jury trial, where people might have different ideas and different perspectives. And again, the fact that we have this language here of racism, calling him a savage, capable of this kind of butchery, interestingly of a young white woman. Clearly, therefore, the jury has been swayed by the differences in skin colour. So as I was writing this, I was probably inspired a bit by To Kill a Mockingbird and the trial of Tom in that novel. So those are things you could talk about. So if those are your annotations, then what could your first paragraph be of your essay? Well, it might be something like this. The extract taken from the jury room presents the verdict of Bradley Schofield, who has been accused and put on trial for the murder of a white woman. The extract takes place in a courtroom and adjoining jury room, which is synonymous with power hierarchies, and the judiciary, which has more power than regular citizens. For example, the judge sits higher than anyone else and is responsible for sentencing. Ironically, despite a court supposedly representing truth and justice, the juror's verdict is actually based on Bradley's race rather than the actual facts of the case, resulting in unfairness and injustice from bigotry and prejudice. Mandy represents rebellion and the principle of standing up for what is right and just, although she is met with castigation and is threatened to be dismissed from the jury because she is wanting to base her verdict on the facts of the case, not Bradley's ethnicity. So just an example there of a kind of overview, demonstrating to the examiner that you know what's going on and what lines of inquiry, I suppose, you want to take forward in the main part of the essay, in which you analyse the language in more detail, look at connotations, look at some more thorough methods, etc. So hopefully that was useful. This, like I said at the beginning, this is a series of 4 videos looking at shorter extracts that I have written to practice the concept of connecting the module of political and social protest writing to an extract, which is exactly what you'll be doing in the exam. Okay, so hopefully that was useful, and thank you very much for watching. I'll put the links for the other videos in the description box below. Thank you.